Hello, welcome. This is a roundtable live panel, conversations and creation with some gorgeous souls that I have journeyed with in many different ways. And I'm excited to talk about alchemy in community because we can work in isolation, but also co-creation. So, hello, beautiful ones watching us live. I'm so excited to be sharing this. But if you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay, let us know. And you're so welcome to share this from the YouTube. But for now, it's just being streamed live into our Divine Alchemy Masterclass. And we welcome your questions because co-creation is more fun when we all share it together. And if you're watching this on YouTube and this is your first time seeing me, hi, I'm Kacie Aileen Knight. I've been known as Aurora Light in the past, and I am a conscious creation coach, a ascension alchemist, and soul embodiment guide. And I adore supporting people in their unique alchemy of like pulling everything that feels really like separate into one beautiful tapestry so that we can come into this experience of wholeness and unity, and so many other things too. But I'd love to introduce you to these beautiful beings, and I'll share a tiny introduction, but then I'll invite you to come on your mic and share a little bit about you. These beautiful heart-centered entrepreneurs are women that actually are all from the Edmonton area. So we are in close geographical proximity, but also in beautiful divine resonance. And they've been walking with me specifically through my Divine Alchemy, the Alchemy of Abundance mastermind since about the equinox. So about 6 weeks ago, we've had the chance with a few other women to really dive deep into these intimate conversations about receiving and support and connection and abundance. And there's been a lot of alchemizing old ways of being and like unplugging from some of those old belief systems and thoughts and feelings, and really expanding into this new paradigm, this new frequency bandwidth of abundance. And I just want to define for you, to me, abundance, we're not just talking about like cold hard cash. That can be a part of it, but abundance means connection to me, right? It's moving out of the frequency of separation and scarcity into being connected with the infinite divine energetic flow. So that's always like relationship to self, to support, to the abundance of, the earth realm, to the abundance of just all that is. So thank you for being here, my beautiful friends. I'm actually going to go to Christy first, because Christy is someone that is a self-proclaimed conscious creator, which I love. I know everybody here is, but she works with the same words that I work with. And so when we connected, I was like, speaking my language, hooray. She is a podcast host and a author and coach and multidimensional entrepreneur. And I just love, Christy, for you to explain to people like what your jam is, the whole ass human, right?
Yeah, I love working with people in all areas because we are whole ass humans that are complex and, capable of a wide range of things. And I had Kacie on my podcast not long ago. One of my favorite discussions about being a whole ass human and just embracing all of those sides, because it's all of the parts that come together that make us who we are. And that is beautiful and amazing. And when we can start to embrace those bits that maybe we are kind of resisting or don't want to, that's when the magic really starts to happen. So yes, as Kacie mentioned, I am an author and a podcast host, and I am actually just today kicking off a 21-day challenge, guiding people through, and I might share more about that maybe later, but for now, I just wanted to say the titles I'm going with right now are Happiness Hussy and Adventure Guide, because that's what this is all about. It's about adventuring through life and figuring it out. And my cousin called me a happiness hussy in total jest, but I fucking claim it. It's mine. I'm going with it. It resonated. It fits. I'm doing it. So thanks so much for having me here.
Oh my gosh, I am so happy that you could be here. Happiness Hessie, like that is one of my favorite 2-word sentences that I like are so unexpected put together. And that's just a great example of alchemy, right? What you're speaking into, especially what you're speaking into about like all of those pieces that we like don't necessarily want to claim. That being where our magic power is where we can dissolve the barriers to like what you might call our shadow aspect and those parts of ourselves that maybe we're not in love with. And when we can really, with love and gratitude, bring them into our conscious awareness and work with them instead of like pushing them away, that's, I feel like where so much alchemical magic happens.
Yeah.
Mm. Thank you so much. And if you are not subscribed to her podcast, you should definitely go check out our episode together and all of them because it's a really good time. And I love that whole ass human. I've started saying that because I'm always like, the unified field of creation is inside of us and out in the realm. And you just put it as it is, the whole ass human connected to all of creation. So much fun. Nicole's saying she loves happiness, Hessie. I think everybody who is like our people would resonate with that. And if it's not someone's jam, then they're not your people.
It's totally fine, right? It's totally fine.
Oh, so beautiful. Thanks for being here. And I'm gonna just introduce Shannon next. And we're all at different phases of our like entrepreneurship journey and alchemy journey. But Shannon and I have been working together for a couple of years now, and witnessing like your alchemical journey, the hero's arc, has been absolutely profoundly moving for me because you have taken, a lifetime of stuff that was ready to be alchemized into something new. And that's been just like incredible to witness. And I know at times things have taken maybe like longer than you'd like them to, which is an important part of the process. But witnessing you step into the expression of a new way of being and a new way of doing business, after years and years in the oil field, which is such a particular industry, right? Oh, and we lost Shannon. Oh my goodness. She'll be back, I'm sure. And moving into this next phase of evolution, and we'll talk about that because Shannon's an amazing energy healer. She is a soul that I have worked with in her one-on-one sessions, and they've been really magical. So we'll come back to Shannon when she pops back on. So Tracy.
Hello.
Also someone that I have known and worked with in several different contexts over several different years, actually, that we've known each other really since 2020, and also witnessing your alchemy of like the old way and really like watching you remove old pieces and programs and clear stuff out to really step into your new expression of being. This has been amazing. So I'm going to say, welcome back, Shannon. We'll take a moment here. And now I'm like, okay, do I go back to Tracy? Do I talk to Shannon? Who's ready to go?
Whichever.
All right.
That was weird. Okay, so I kind of missed my intro. I have it on my phone, so I was listening a little bit, but I apologize. I'm not sure what happened there.
Internet is amazing for like doing weird things at weird times. Well, welcome. Just I don't know, what do you feel like is on your heart to share? I was just raving about witnessing your hero's journey.
Yeah, it has been a journey. I've enjoyed working with you. We've come a long way with you walking beside me. Yeah, I'm not sure what to say. I'm feeling a little bit nervous now because my internet dropped off. So, but I'm back. So
You are back.
Yeah.
So maybe this is just like the most beautiful example of what life can look like, right? Unexpected challenges get thrown into your field and it doesn't have to take you out completely. And you can show up even if you don't know exactly what's going on or what you're doing, and you're here and you're present, and that is worth celebrating. So thank you for coming back.
For sure.
Like, what were we doing?
Yeah, I feel like that's been kind of the theme of my life for the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm just rolling with that.
beautiful. And like everything is figure outable. Things happen. It's really more our capacity to respond to them instead of like go through the subconscious reaction to the thing. So I think that's also one thing that we have worked together is like taking that pause moment so that if life is happening, we can go, okay, this is how I've responded in the past, but I don't know if that's how I want to roll anymore. So I'm consciously choosing something new.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the most amazing thing, right? Is when we can actually take that moment and go, okay, maybe not. Like, let's not do that anymore. Let's do something new and insert like the practice
Mhm.
of taking our consciousness and our conscious awareness to our experience of life, right? To me, that's the alchemy, right? Instead of just like living by default.
For sure, yes.
Beautiful. Well, I know it's kind of awkward to be like off and on. So thank you. Welcome back. And we'll catch up in a sec. But I'm going to say, Tracy, thank you for just taking a moment of pause there.
Yeah.
So we have worked, together in very similar ways. And Tracy has so many of her own alchemical techniques and modalities that you have trained in and worked with, and you do all the things when it's coming to alchemy and clearing. So I'd just love for you to speak into what you do and what you're all about.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's so fun to be here with everybody. So, for lack of a better, label or whatever, I'm an intuitive guide and a healer. And I do have quite a bit of training in modalities, and I've spent the last couple of years alchemizing them all together and breaking down all of the programs and the constructs that are given to us when we're taught something, right? And you have to do it this way, and you have to do it this way, and you have to do it this way, and don't mix them together, and all of those things. So I work a lot in the energetic realm with past lives and with clearing and with courts and contracts, energy release, generational healing, all of that kind of stuff. And I work in a way that brings it all together. So there really isn't one system, which I really love because no two sessions ever look alike, which is sometimes difficult because people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, it depends. Who are you and why are you here? It's like, well, depends. But it's always what somebody is needing, right? It's always what they're requiring. But so I'm super happy to be here because I too have been on a journey of alchemizing everything that I do for the last couple of years. So it's been quite the journey.
Exactly. I have had this exact same thing where it's like, how do we as multi-dimensional, multi-passionate, multi-talented people who have all of these different interests, and I'm speaking for we as, everyone watching, if you're watching this, I'm sure you are the same way. You're good at many things, you've got many interests, and you're maybe an entrepreneur who's like, how do I bring it all together? Right. And like the old way used to be like niching down really hard and keeping yourself in this box so you could speak to, one problem and fix the problem. And so many of us are feeling very limited by that experience because if I'm really speaking to it at the highest level, we are in this time where we're not supposed to be separate anymore. We're supposed to be, but rising into this awareness of all of ourselves, right? Body, mind, heart, soul, and even all of our multidimensional expressions, right? Like past, present, future from different dimensions and places and spaces and times. And you're able to pull in so much of that wisdom, especially if you're working with clients in sessions. So it's like, what do you do? And I really can speak to it more easily now. Like for me, it's like following the flow of energy and releasing the pockets of density that are impeding the flow. And I know all three of you in your sessions with clients do that in your own way, right? Where really that's like the basis of it. And you can do it in different areas and with different people, but it's following the flow and seeing where the flow is not happening. And we talked about that in day one of the Divine Alchemy Masterclass is like the density being all of the old stuff, the old crap, the belief systems, the traumas, the dramas, the programs, the wounding from Akashic ancestral collective realms, all of that stuff that I short form as density. One of my mentors short forms as ick, right? The shit that makes us feel like our energy field is really small, and we, from that small place, don't feel like we've got possibilities. We feel really stuck, right? And it is the process of, I think, unwinding that density through the alchemy that allows us to come up into this field of possibility where we can actually start to use our intuition, where we can start to follow the flow of our own energetic stream and align with our cosmic trajectory and start to play as the conscious creator instead of feeling like life is happening to us. So I'd love to talk about this in terms of our capacity to use our intuition, right? And how that's been an expansion, right? To kind of know what is for us. And I actually just would love to go back to you, Shannon, because I know that your intuition has come online really strongly over the last while. So, and you too, just like Shannon, have all of these different modalities and techniques for energy clearing and healing. But I know there was a element of expansion into being able to follow the flow of energy recently. So what has that process been like for you, maybe somatically and experientially, from going from like feeling like you're not as tapped into like, ooh, I can feel and know things and start to trust that?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having me here and giving me a hot sec to get my poop grouped here. So yeah, it's, when I was in the oil field, it was definitely not in alignment with my energy. And not to say it's, not for everybody. We need certain things there. Learned lots of things through that. But yeah, when I first met you, I was certainly not following my intuition. And I learned a lot of very big life lessons through that. It was certainly a bumpy ride, but yeah, tapping into that was very frightening at first. I remember that I had a lot of, like trauma responses from that. But I found, we just kind of cracked the door open a little bit and just let little bits in piece by piece and layer by layer, removing the densities and a lot of times the emotional, I almost felt like there were bonds and they were, holding me back in different parts of my body, finding those, releasing those. And just layer by layer, pulling them off. So yeah, and it was, having somebody to walk with through that is so supportive and was so, it continues to be supportive. I know in the group we're in now, it's amazing having all these wonderful souls to bounce ideas off of. And, I know we relate to a lot of things and we mirror things back and forth and, picking up little codes and tidbits from each and every one of the people in our group is you just advance so much faster and you clear so much faster. And yeah, it's an amazing process.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Thank you so much for speaking into the layer by layer and the piece by piece thing, because I feel like people who have been traumatized by life, because life is traumatizing, especially now, can get into this overwhelm of like, well, where do I start? Right. And we can get lost in like, there's so much to do. And I feel like you spoke into that, like piece by piece, layer by layer. It doesn't have to all be done at once. And that's really important, I think, to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think when I first started out, like a couple of years ago, it was even recognizing that I was closed off and I wasn't listening to my intuition. Like it started right from ground zero. Even that, just realizing was a huge for me. And now, now we've come a long ways and through the modalities I've learned with you and others. And just, yeah, it's scary, but so invigorating coming through to the other side. And, you know what, we think it's going to be a lot scarier than it actually is. I think the fear of looking in the mirror and the fear of walking through it is actually worse than actually just getting down and doing it. So I think that was one of my big lessons too, is I think I wasted more energy trying not to deal with it than I did when I actually sat down and just, got at it. So that's a work in progress for me still. So
For all of us, but like, first off, let me know in the comments if you needed to hear that, right? That reminder of it's actually taking more energy to hide from the stuff that's right in front of you. And we've all been there. So thank you for like admitting that, right? Like, because that's a courageous thing to have to face yourself. But it does, on the other side of that, creates so much freedom. It's an energy leak to have things hanging out where you're like, I'm not going to look at that. I'm not going to look at that old trauma, that wound from my childhood, that wound from wherever it happens to be, right? Because we're afraid of going into it. But on the other side of that is this, I feel, and let me know, ladies, and in the comments here, freedom and expansion and possibility, and this energy that returns to you. Because again, that flow just happens instead of it needing to force that, right? And then you have this capacity to feel, I think, rejuvenated and restored from it. So I really appreciate all like wisdom bombs and mic drop moments in there, and just taking a moment to also acknowledge, like very publicly, how far you've come, right? Because it has only been a couple of years, really, since 2020, from you really literally being so closed off to actually being someone who is so tapped into that flow that you can support other people in the healing and the alchemizing and the density. Like, that's huge.
yeah, and recognizing when it does come around again, because a lot of times those emotions and feelings do come around again. It doesn't not necessarily mean that you're not healed. There is a lot we can, clear to get it not coming around again. But even if it does, holding fast, holding steady, knowing it's just another layer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's really, I think, powerful also to be in like community containers. Like our one-on-one work has been amazing. For everyone here has worked with me one-on-one at some point. We've also been in these community containers where we get to like have this understanding of we're not alone. Because almost every time someone's like, I'm moving through something, everyone else is like, I have either been there or I am there right now, or like there's just that feeling of, oh my gosh, this is normal. This is part of it. And I think that's really profound too. So I'd love to talk more about this, this capacity to work and alchemize with the stuff, like not just healing the old stuff, but working with it as it's coming up. And I'd love to hear actually from Tracy or Christy about the process of not shoving the things down, because I know both of you are actually quite good at noticing now and then dealing with something as it's arising instead of shoving it into the shadow place. But before we go into that, I just want to celebrate that I had this weird intuitive download to actually begin my second mastermind for our current container has even finished. And that didn't make logical sense to me, because I was like, well, obviously this one's going to finish and then we'll do the new one. But Spirit was like, you have to have this particular container, which is coming up, called Evolve, that starts on Friday, start in December, and it needs to arc over December, January, February. If you start in January, it's going to be too late. That will throw off the flow. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess it'll be a different group of people then. But I'm celebrating that 4 out of the 5 or 6 of us that are in this current intimate mastermind, we're like, let's keep going and let's connect in with the Evolve energy. And so we get to like co-create and expand on what we've been doing together, which is amazing. I'll also just drop this for people that have been on the fence. I said I was going to change the early bird pricing at midnight last night and totally didn't set that up on a schedule. And I haven't done it yet because my kid's home sick. So there's still early bird pricing of $888 to start. right now, and it'll probably change over around 1 p.m. today. So just throwing that out there. You could do it right now if you're like, I want to hang out with these ladies and all of these other beautiful souls that are wanting to do this work consciously and connect into that sisterhood and co-creative energy of clearing, healing, and consciously evolving. So just dropping that. But yeah, throwing it over to Tracy or Christy, what is the experience like for you now of having these tools that you're working with to like not ignore, but rather deal with the stuff as it comes up and be an alchemist in the moment? Not that you do it every time, because like everybody, we're not masters at it, we're working on it.
I think for me, like awareness is definitely the first step to anything that you want to heal or move through, right? Is recognizing that it's even there in the first place. And then from there, like once you build your toolbox and you pick up your tips and tricks, if you want to call them that, or whatever word you want to put on that, it's so much easier than it's been made out to be. And that's one of the big lessons that I've learned over, the last couple of years is like, you don't have to sit down for, in a 1 hour ceremony in order to clear your shit. Right? Not that there's anything wrong with ceremony. I love ceremony. I offer ceremony. So I'm not dissing that at all. But the healing journey can actually be way easier than it's made out to be in a lot of the metaphysical and spiritual communities, in my opinion. So, once you have that awareness and you have those tools, I don't have to spend half an hour or an hour sitting in my shit. I can clear my emotions in less than 5 minutes and I can go about my day. And very much like Shannon said, when it's layer by layer, right? It's just like you just peel that one piece off of the onion. And then when it comes up again, you go back to the onion, you peel off the next one, right? And the more that you do it, the more it becomes second nature and it just becomes a way of, it's an embodiment, right? It's a daily practice, just like brushing your teeth.
I really appreciate that, because that's a great reminder. And I know we can think that it takes a long time. And maybe when we're learning the tools, it does. But
Yeah.
once you have practiced utilizing tools, then you can do them as easily as brushing your teeth. I do energy clearing and healing in the shower. I do it as I notice something, especially lately. I just want to speak into memories from my past that arise when I notice that I have a thought about something and I go, ugh. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and actually clear the old emotional energy from that, so it doesn't have a charge anymore. And then that creates this fluidity in my life stream, right? So I'm not hanging out with these old pockets of density. So I would love to hear, if you want to share, Tracy, maybe you can offer people as an example of how you can do that in a moment, in a couple minutes.
Yeah. So depending on what I feel called, because I just follow my intuition, but sometimes I'll just use a few simple clearing statements around that. And I pull from my tool of subconscious imprinting. And so I destroy and uncreate anything and everything that's coming up in that moment. Other times I pull up my pendulum, because that's a huge divination tool that I like to use. And I'll clear the emotions that come up that way. And it's literally like a 30-second process. So it's just finding that thing that works for you. Like there is no right or wrong way. So we can destroy and uncreate all of that. It's just finding your way.
I love that. And also, if you do want an intense clearing, healing, alchemizing, I feel like that's Tracy's forte, and you can work with her online. And same thing with Shannon as well, to go in and clear things. And they both work intuitively, and they have modalities that are like quantum energy healing, like decodes. And then Tracy, you also have things like SRT and SIT and conscious imprinting and all of these beautiful things that you can do with people to go like deep into like all of it. And I really appreciate that you, even though you work on that deep level and like, let's go for an hour, let's like clear out all of that density from, again, the Akashic, the collective, the ancestral, like all of that stuff. You're like, also, you can do it quick. It doesn't have to be a big deal, right? And that, I think, is such a game changer for being able to like, again, stay in the flow, right? To not get taken out by a big feeling. So speaking of big feelings, though, I would love to connect with you, Christy, about that energy of like needing to still feel the feelings and not like spiritually bypass them, but then also having the space to like release things. And just what are your thoughts on that? Like needing as a human to feel feelings, because we can want to clear them too quickly sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes our human really just needs to have the experience of feeling away so that we can really create and experience more contrast, right? We have much more appreciation for the good times when we know how good they are. And without the contrast, then they just are. So we don't have that perspective. And I wanted to share too, like I love both what Shannon and Tracy both said, and I'm going to piggyback right onto that a little bit and just say baby steps are the way to go. To piggyback on what Shannon said, I actually went live talking about baby steps because I feel so strongly that it's the tiny things that we do that can make the biggest impact, particularly because we can do them consistently, which keeps us moving towards our target. Whereas if we go a little bit too extreme, we'll get in our own way and cockblock ourselves from doing the thing. I was actually just saying this morning, my physiotherapist gave me 10 exercises. I looked at that, I was like, nope. I thought he was going to give me 3, 10 too many. I'm not doing any of them. Right. And so this human nature to be like, oh, too overwhelming. No, I can't do that. Like now it's a project. I'm not doing it. So keeping it really simple is a really big hack to moving forward and getting that progress. And then I also wanted to share, I totally agree, Tracy, we can shut this shit down like in record fashion if we have the right tools in our toolbox. And it's important to have a whole toolbox. And that's why actually the book that I wrote is about building your own toolbox to stop the spiral. Because what happens with the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts, the emotions are not bad. They're just information to tell us, hey, this is what's coming up. The problem that we run into is when our mind kicks in and starts telling all the stories and attaching the meanings and the judgments and all of that, which we can then find ourselves really spiraling out of control. So the book that I wrote is actually called Unstuck, and I just so happen to have my proof right here. And I am the 21-day challenge that I'm doing that actually started today is really about just small perspective shifts. Inside my book, I share about how to build your toolbox. I call the whole thing the spiral stopper method. And it is really about putting tools in your toolbox so that when it comes up, you can stop the spiral, because that's what takes you out of the present moment, so that you can become present, look at the thing and create space for it to flow through. And what Kacie was talking about last week, and I had this little breakdown, and this happens because we're human. Things come up and we're like, oh shit, I thought I dealt with that already. And here we go again with the feelings and the emotions and the stories and the things. So it's really important to be able to weed out the extraneous information, shut down the spirals, because they're distracting us from what's underneath. And actually they're what make it feel so damn overwhelming. And so if we can just shut that down, we can look at what is actually underneath, and we can just create space to observe it. And I personally feel that, or find that in my experience, just looking at it and be like, oh, hey there, overwhelmed. I see you. I accept you. What are you here to help me with today? And then it just generally is like, oh, okay, peace, I'm out. Like, it makes it so much easier. But having those tools in your toolbox really can help, and developing sort of a practice of just shutting down all of the extraneous stuff so that you can really deal with the issue at hand can really, really call back a lot of energy and wasted time and mental space and all of these things. So yeah.
That is so important to understand too, like while you're in it, like how I loved, so I mean, Christy shared with us that feeling of overwhelm that was happening in the mastermind. She shared with us so we could witness and hold her, but I just adored that she had the perspective, that witnessing of like, my human is having these feelings, this overwhelm, but you were like, I know it's creating space for something new to drop in. And, yeah. I mean, having the support of being witnessed, I know is really helpful and powerful for me, but also supporting yourself as the witness through the process, and go like, you will survive this. It's not actually the end of the world. It's part of the process. You have to feel the feelings. And then can you describe the spaciousness that you felt afterwards?
I don't know, honestly, Kacie, if I can put that into better words than that, because sometimes words kind of evade me, and I feel like I will try as a human, and I am a chronic over explainer because of this very problem. And I don't know which words to use to explain it, but I just felt like there was so much spaciousness in my being. And as a result of this sort of created spaciousness, I mean, it felt heavy as hell at first. And I was like, oh God, like I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying. Like kind of trying to figure out why I'm crying. And then I was like, you know what? I don't need to figure it out. Like, it's not that it's something that needs to be figured out. I just sat and let it kind of flow through, let the tears fall. I got a little curious because I do like to know, well, what am I meant to kind of do with this? Is there something that I'm meant to do? And my intuition basically just said, I didn't need to do anything. I just need to just observe, just be there. A big part of, to me, getting unstuck is being able to step back into that observer role, not be so in it and taking all the things so personally, and really creating meaning where there probably isn't any, which we humans, oh my gosh, we are logical. We love to do that. So kind of stepping back and being like, I don't need to explain to myself and to understand. It's okay. My human just needed a little release, right? And as it flowed through, then I felt the feeling of the overwhelm and the heaviness sort of just dissipate. And what space, just spaciousness. I felt like there was a lot of space. And ironically, I mean, not really ironically, this is the way it works, but you don't think it's going to work this way until you experience it. Inside that space is where a lot of inspiration sort of dropped in and literally created a 21-day challenge. I did the same thing. Like, I had a kind of a breakdown at the beginning of summer, and I was like, fuck it all. I'm done trying so hard. And then my whole book just basically got inspired to write my entire book. And the same thing with this last thing. I created the challenge that kicked off today, like in an afternoon, because I had so much spaciousness that inspiration was just able to come up and direct me and give me all of the things that I needed to move forward and get unstuck myself, right? Like, this is the work. This is doing the work ourselves, not just guiding other people, but going first and doing the work first, because we are a whole ass human and we can lead better when we do it that way.
I love that. And yes, thank you for all of those rich codes. Let me know if you're resonating with this, right? As you're watching in the comments, like, do you feel like you've had this experience? And what if we could, because this is where the mastery comes in, and this is what we're working with. And you get, when you're in mentorship and when you're in masterminds and community, is people reminding you what's on the other side and reminding you of how potent it's going to be, and reminding you of the possibilities on the other side, and holding you through that process. So Christy, make sure you drop the challenge in the comments so that people can find that. And Tracy, I know you have to go at 12:45 because you do have a client, because you are in service to help people alchemize and help people declare. And so I would just love for you to share any thoughts that you have about this, like alchemical process or anything else. I'm just going to give you the floor, and then also invite you to share how people can connect with you if they're in need of some energy clearing with all of the tools that you have.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I think that one of the biggest things that I've noticed, especially over the last year, is that anytime I say yes to a container, and what I mean by that is like a mastermind container. So not so much like a process of, I mean, there is learning, but not like a thing to learn to get the certificate type thing. But when I drop into a container like this, where, you know, we're all here to be in service with and to each other, and we remove this, you know, the hierarchies and sometimes the power grid that often exists in groups, especially I find with women. Every time I say yes to the container, everything starts to shift. And in my personal life and in my business too, things start to just flow at a very different speed. And there's a lot more ease that comes with them. And what I love about that too, is that as that starts to drop in, also I get the, I was going to say inspired actions, but they're kind of triggers at the same time, but the things that come up where I'm like, oh, and it's usually something I've experienced before. And then when I drop it into the group, I get all of these amazing codes and these things that I didn't think of before. And I was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way, or, oh, I didn't see it that way. Or that helps me to start to move through the things that oftentimes I wasn't necessarily able to fully see, so that I could move through on my own. Right. I noticed that, especially in the realm of intuition, sometimes it's way easier to tap into intuitive guidance for someone else than it is sometimes for self, right? Is because we can still have the blinders on a little bit with the things that we don't want to see. So that's what I love. And that's why I chose to continue in this container with you, is because like even the other day, I had this dream, and I'm not one for dreams, and it's like, there's, these 3 mice that showed up in my dream. And I was like, I have no clue what this means. And then Shannon was like, well, let me tell you, and dropped in all this amazing stuff for me. And I was like, holy shit, I would have never thought of any of that. Right. And so the support is just, it's no longer an option, I think, for any of us to be doing things on our own. And I think that as long as we resist coming together in community and coming together in sisterhood and want to do things on our own, we're just making it harder. Right? We're just making it harder. So I am really leaning into support and community. And this is one of the ways that I can do that for myself. And that it's just been so beneficial for me in so many different ways. So I'm super grateful that you've created this container, and to all of the women that have chose to show up as well. Yeah.
Just breathing that in, because tell us in the comments, tell us, like, raise your hand if this has been you, but maybe you've had the experience of being the black sheep or the psychedelic sheep or the loner, the misunderstood one, the alien who has been a leader, right? A leader of consciousness or what have you, right? Especially the people that are the conscious visionary leaders, change makers, healers, helpers. Like, we've stood alone in the past, in our childhood. We've been misunderstood. And the coming together to actually receive support and heart connection, as well as those codes and the new perspectives, like, there's something so profoundly healing about it. Like, it's actually my literal favorite. So I'm so grateful that we have these opportunities to connect, in these more intimate containers, because I've been in giant groups and I've been in intimate masterminds, and the level of depth of transformation that heals the soul level of, like, you with triggers first sometimes, right? Like, everybody walked into the Alchemy of Abundance mastermind, and everyone, except me, because obviously I knew I belonged there, but everybody went, do I belong here? Are these women, like, better than me? Am I as advanced as them? Am I going to be able to hang and roll? And that trigger was this incredible gift and opportunity for people to unwind these belief systems and these programs of hierarchy that have been instilled upon us, right? One of my mentors says, equal power, but different.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah. And it's a remembering, because this is in our past lives, this is how we used to do it, whether it was the red tent, whether it was the mystery schools, whatever that was, that is how it used to be done. And so it's about bringing us back together and doing it in the way that it used to be done, that was so sacred and so powerful at the same time.
Yeah. I'm just breathing into that, and I actually, like, have tears in my eyes, because it's like, it's one of the things. So thank you for bringing that up, about that potency of that intimate connection with people who get it, right? Like, so we can work together and co-create together and be so much stronger together and illuminate things for each other, with each other, including the triggers and the traumas and the dramas, and including the opportunity to learn from each other, grow from each other, right? Like, all of it, it's so profound, it's so healing, and it's just such a gift. So I know you have to go, but thank you so much for spending this time with us. And I'm so excited that we get to continue on in the journey and evolve and beyond then, because you're not getting rid of me that easily.
I hope not. But thank you. It truly is an honor just to be in here in this container with you, and with Christy and Shannon and everybody else that's going to follow their intuition and say yes to this.
Yeah. And whatever, it doesn't have to be in our container, but I really loved what you said about, like, it not being optional anymore. right? Like we have this requirement to have support and connection, especially for the leaders wanting to level up their abundance, right? Because if you can't receive support and you're constantly giving and giving and giving and giving, and just being a leader yourself, you are going to be tapping out of your potential to receive, right? We need the receptive energy. We also need to be held if we're holding space for others, and it's that reciprocity. It's so beautiful. So please do drop your links of how people can connect with you, to do like SRT clearing and all of the other beautiful things that you do, because it's so much fun to work with Tracy. I've done that many times and brought her into my group containers and co-created, and also for friends, right? Like we have gotten to build with like all of these beautiful souls, and I love that about my job, and it not going into like being a therapist or something like I thought I would, is that these intimate relationships of co-creating can really happen in so many varieties of ways. And if you journey with someone, you know, it's hard not to fall in love with their soul, right? And be like, I want to spend time with you.
Yeah, well, and if I can add one more thing to that, actually, in my own experience, because I've been in containers where there's been 8, 10, 12 people, and I've been in containers where there's been 25, 50, and 100. And I recognize that everybody's experience is different. But for me, when I'm in those large containers, I tend to kind of shrink back a little bit, and I just feel like I'm just a number. Right. And what happens in those types of containers for me then is I'm not actively participating. I'm not, engaged. I'm not energetically all in, because it's so overwhelming to have so many people in that container. And so for me, if I want to do the work and I want to receive support, I want to build those intimate connections. That's why I keep my containers that I offer small as well. Right. Because there's power in numbers, but there's also power in connection.
I love that. And I have programs and offerings and courses that can be, like infinite numbers of people, but then like, yeah, especially in a mastermind. I mean, I've heard of people putting, 20, 50, 80 people in a mastermind. I'm like, that's not a real mastermind, right? That's not the intention of it, is to have the group collective mind be greater, like the synergy where it's greater than the sum of the individuals, and we learn from each other and we share from each other, right? It's not, otherwise it's just a group coaching container, right? And we do group coaching, but we also exchange with each other. Like that's the brilliance where, like I'll sit back and I'll just witness people exchanging the codes and information for themselves. And that's like, oh my gosh, makes my heart expand and grow like 20 sizes and burst out of my heart.
Yeah. And I think that's actually what makes your mastermind really special. I just want to hop in and just comment on this. It's just, it's not a hierarchy. We're all journeying together. We're doing this adventure together. Yes, you're the guide and the organizer, but it doesn't feel like you're in charge of that. It feels like we're doing this together in sisterhood, which feels really, really fucking good, honestly, because there's a lot of sisterhood wounds out there, and to unpack those and move through, and to trust, to find a safe space. And I was I think we maybe all were, but I definitely was like at the start, like, oh my gosh, like, do I belong here? Just for a minute or two, because I knew that Kacie wouldn't have let me join if I was really out of place. So I knew logically, I was like, I know I'm in the right place, and this is exactly what I needed to do. Hi, Tracy. But I just wanted to share how having that whole ass human approach and really just fostering a safe space for us all to come together and connect in sisterhood is what really makes this whole thing stand out. So anyone out there, if that's something that could help you, we are not meant to do the things alone. We are meant to have connection and support. And so trying to do it on our own, yes, we do have the answers, and it is our work. It is our responsibility to do our work, but we don't have to do it by ourselves on our own. So take the opportunity for sure, and get some sort of support, because it will help you go further faster.
I really appreciate that, first off, of like the reflection of the container. And I appreciate that so much. And thank you, Tracy, for saying that, and Christy. And it's so funny because I was in a mastermind of my own this morning, and we were having this conversation about how mentorship should also have community. And I was like, no, I've got a fine tuning of that, because a lot of the work that I do is really as like a soul embodiment guide and ascension doula, because we're elevating our consciousness at the same time our soul is coming to like be in our body after the alchemy creates the space, right? And I do that work intimately in my one-on-ones, and I do this work in community containers and other programs and things like that. But some of my one-on-one clients, my high level like luxury VIP mentorship clients, they're not interested in the community piece right now, at least not in my communities. And so I was explaining to the other people in the mastermind, because they were like, I don't know if I want to have both, like, could I separate them? And yes, of course you can. And I was explaining, especially for women, that there are women that want to labor through their expansion and rebirth and even physical labor alone, like a cat, right? Like going into a safe, cozy, warm space where they can be alone, or they can just be with one person. And that is what their soul needs. And then there's people that need to go through this rebirth and they want to be held by community, and that's laboring like an elephant. And there's neither one of them that's like good or bad or right or wrong. It's just like different styles of energy. But that's for the birth process, right? As you're going through really deep like alchemy and healing. But I think, well, everyone that's here with me right now, we're moms, and we know that mothering on your own and like continuing the journey, you need the village and the support, right? So if you're like ick to the community part right now, that's not wrong. It means you're really, really enmeshed in your process, and that could be okay. But it could be an old program saying you have to do it alone. So you'd really want to get some clarity on whether or not you're playing out a hyper independence wound, which I used to have, of like, I have to suffer alone because I can't be a burden to anybody. That's bad. I have to be an island. I have to be a rock, right? Versus being able to consciously choose and do it by your own design of when you're really in those deep depths of alchemy, right? And I know I'm someone who would rather give birth in a very small community, but then also be held with the sisterhood, right? Especially for the periods when I'm ready to like expand and grow and receive. And I'm not attached to anybody coming to play in my containers. Well, you already are in this masterclass, right? This is a great way of connecting and being in communion. But do check in if you have been trying to hold too much of the stuff yourself, right? If you've been trying to do it alone, because like the ladies were saying, we do learn so much from this connection piece. So I'd love to connect with you, Shannon, actually now about everything that people are speaking into about the intimate and like the alchemy and the going through your own process versus also being held in community, and like the differentiation maybe of like what is needed and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I needed the one-on-one myself. We that's how we started, you and I, and just that space, the safe space to be held, to go through and work through, you know, some of the traumas and I guess the safe space to crack open the doors and, you know, listen to intuition and it is very, very powerful working one-on-one, and we have went through some, you know, amazing journeys, and I know each one of the ladies in our mastermind are very good at holding people one-on-one. But I love the part now where I'm at. I've worked through enough, and I just love the group containers that you hold, and I find I'm, you know, participating and speaking more into that now that I'm, you know, in a different place myself. But I love, you know, I love how we're kind of rewriting the sisterhood, rewriting the story of how we can support one another. And, you know, there's not the hierarchies in the group. And, you know, I have my own little trigger to that when we first joined as well. You know, wondering how it was going to be, but, you know, I love that there is no hierarchy in there. It's the new way of doing things. You know, we're creating what we want for one another and the support that we love for one another. And, just the next level of connecting with each other in community is so supportive. And yeah, I'm just loving the energy. It was a hell yeah for me to sign up for the next mastermind group that you have that overlaps. And I'm like, perfect. I'm there. The collective journey is where I'm at. And, supporting anyone, sometimes it just takes that little bit of a tweak or a little tweak of moving your person's energy, just that little wee shift that we can sometimes support each other with, along with the big journey support too. So either or, it's fantastic.
I love that. I call that just fine tuning the frequency.
Mhm.
Because the thing is, the women and the people that work with me at this level of container, like, you've already done so much work, right? It's not that you have to rewrite everything. There might be some deeper levels that we're uncovering, and we've had some big ahas over the last week, actually, about some capitalism, patriarchy, weird stuff about the divine feminine experience of making money. And that's been eye-opening for people in partnership and things like that. But yeah, just having someone be a mirror for you and reflect to you where something might be just better aligned with a different perspective, that everything then kind of clicks into place. It's almost like a pinball machine or something. And then we just feel this spaciousness and this freshness and this flow. And we're like, oh, that was easy. And it's that exchange of codes and the exchange of stories, I think, that also really helps. And people are sharing their story. We talked about this, how then we're like, oh, good, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one who's gone through this.
And it feels so much easier too, when so many people are reflecting back to you, yeah, I feel like that, but maybe just in a slightly different way. But those little keys and those little codes that maybe are obvious for someone else, but not myself. And then it just makes it so much easier to take the next step forward.
I agree. And because all of the women that are drawn to these containers are conscious creators, leaders, healers, facilitators, guides, whatever, writers, authors, teachers, all of these things, mothers, right? They're in these leadership positions. And there's just this really cool opportunity to be I feel leading each other in this really cohesive way that feels, again, like you've been all talking about, this new energy, this new paradigm where the hierarchy is dissolving into the unified field, the collective consciousness, where we celebrate each other's differences and honor each other's strengths, learn from each other, co-create with each other, help each other out, don't feel alone, right? It's just all of these pieces get to happen now because the world is ready for them. And this is, I think, creating a lot of ripples in the collectives when conscious women get together and support each other, right? The ripple into the collective is so massive. And we're not the only ones doing this. There are lots of pockets of this happening all over. But like Tracy was saying, it's this reclamation of the ancient way of being, pulling through the future coding into the now and creating the alchemy, the secret sauce, the magic.
Yeah, we're moving away from comparison and we're moving into collaboration. And I was just going to say too, I put in the comments, I think one-to-one coaching is still community in a way. It's just a smaller, more intimate thing, right? So when I say we don't need to do it alone, it doesn't matter the format. You got to trust yourself and know what you need right now, but just don't do it by yourself. Not all by yourself. Find some support somewhere from someone you trust. Because collaboration, yeah, that's the new way.
And as everyone that has worked with me knows, that when we are doing a one-on-one, it's actually a team endeavor, because we call in highest self and source and Gaia and the elementals and the teams of light. And so we are well resourced and well supported even in that one-on-one session. So I guess that really proves the point, right? Of like, this is the way that we can co-create, and then not having to do it alone, I think relaxes the nervous system, right? Again, that's why I do my one-on-one sessions with the team support, right? So people can feel the energetic and emotional and spiritual as well as the physical support, which is such a game changer. Because I think when we feel alone and separate, that's like the absolute like pivotal point where people start to forget their power, right? And it's in that connected field where we have the possibility of creating literally anything that we feel is aligned with our soul and our heart, right? So I really appreciate this conversation so much. And thank you for sharing all that you have been sharing, my beautiful souls, friends, like to Tracy as well, and everyone that's in the Alchemy of Abundance group, and everyone that's watching, because you're also part of this co-creative container that is putting the codes, the information. That's what I mean by a code, information about creation and what is possible into your field, wherever you're at with it, whether you're ready to start alchemizing things, or you're ready to join, you know, a community and start connecting in that space, or whether you're ready to rise into leadership and start your own and share it, or all of the above, right? We are shifting things simply by doing this personal development work, the energetic fine-tuning, the co-creation, the connection, the collaboration, and the celebration, all the C's. And that's how we consciously evolve, right? That's our luminous evolution, I think, because we become brighter and lighter as we do this work. So I will share for anyone that is like, ooh, I want to get in on that. There is the Evolve Mastermind, a multidimensional experience that is beginning on February. I have leapt into next year. Oh my gosh, December 2nd, Friday. What's happening in February? Oh, it's going to be good, whatever it was. Whatever it was. Time is broken. Oh my gosh. Okay. So whatever happening in February, I will let you know. But Friday is when the Evolve Multidimensional Mastermind begins, arcing from December to February. So I'm sure I'll have something new beginning in February too. Now is not the right time, but there is that option available to you. If you're like, I can't commit to this kind of thing, I do have a new frequency membership that is all about connecting in little pockets, bi-monthly ceremonies for clearing and alchemy that is also available. But I have other things that I do too, right? We talked about my high-level one-on-one mentorship, as well as some other programs may have been referenced. And so tomorrow at, I think it's 1 o'clock, I will create an event for that. No, it's going to be around noon, same time. We're going to do an apothecary market. I really can't speak in English anymore, but I do speak light language, and that's sometimes easier. So I'll be telling people about all of my offerings, the medicine that I bring, including light language, including the creation coach, the oracle cards, the one-on-one mentorship, the next fucking level manifestation course, and other ways you can play. So that is an opportunity to hear about all the different offerings that I bring to the table, because as a multidimensional, multi-passionate person, there's a few different ways that you can work with this alchemy, but it all comes down to really enhancing your creativity through aligning with your soul flow, your highest self, and bringing all of you into this beautiful union. So thank you to everybody that has been part of this, like part of my entire journey. I feel like I just need to shout out, because I have not created anything that I've created alone. It's always been in community and in celebration, from my mentors to the people I'm co-creating with. So thanks for being here now. I know it's a wild time. Like I'm talking about on the earth right now. It is a wild time, but please don't look to just what's happening in the media and in the collective. Also connect in with these conscious communities and containers where people have been doing the work, and they are leading the forefront energetically and showing us all where the earth is headed. And it's so beautiful to see. And there are thousands of pockets and millions of people that are doing this now. So if that gives you any indication about where creation is headed, let it be that. So if you have questions about anything, drop it in the comments. We'll be catching up with those later today. Thank you, Christy and Shannon for being here. Make sure you drop your contact information, check out Christy's challenge. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody. So you are all brilliant and beautiful. And I hope I get to see you tomorrow at the Apothecary Market and just around the internet. If you are inside the Divine Alchemy Masterclass group watching this, I believe we'll have the replays of the 3 days up until December 2nd or 3rd. So enjoy your time. Sending you so much love. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.